Hey, today we have 4 stories about Kevin. I hope you enjoy. Kevin has an accident. I used to work at a company that proctored certification exams. One day, Kevin comes in. I was covering the front desk at the time, and his mom drops him off. Wouldn't be that weird, but Kevin is pushing 40. Kevin checks in for some CompTIA exam, and everything is good. About 20 minutes later, one of the other exam takers comes over to me, and complains of a gnarly smell in the exam room. I go into the exam room, and sure enough, it smells terrible. I'm super confused because it gets cleaned every night. I look around for the cause, until I realize that Kevin has pooped his pants. It's not subtle either, his pants are noticeable wet, and the smell is coming directly from his area. I am not sure how to handle this, but decide being discreet is best. I lean over and softly say to him, "Sir, it appears there's been an issue, can you come with me?" My plan is to get him out of the testing area, let him clean up, and maybe finish the exam in another room. Kevin refuses to budge. In fact, he doesn't even look away from his exam. I'm not sure what to do, so I go out and find the CEO, small company. We both go back in, and discreetly try to get him to leave the area. Kevin refuses. After a couple minutes, I'm over it, so I tell Kevin, in a loud voice, "Sir, you've soiled yourself and you need to leave." Kevin is kind of shocked, so he finally leaves the exam. The CEO and I explain to him outside that he can retake the exam, no charge, but he needs to leave now. He says okay, and asks to use the restroom, while his ride, his mom, comes. We agree and let him go. His mom comes and picks him up, and he leaves. About 10 minutes after he leaves, someone in a class comes up and says you need to check the restroom. Sure enough, Kevin took the poo out of his pants and smeared it all over the bathroom. He then flushed his underwear in the stall, clogging everything. It took the poor custodial staff 45 minutes to clean up the exam room and bathroom, and we had to comp everyone taking an exam at that time. Of course, because he was taking a proctored exam, we had Kevin's full info, and he was promptly banned from all testing centers in like 100 miles. That's the end of our first story. Now on to the second. Kevin the intern. My dear friends, it's roughly that time of year again, for interns to descend on our departments asking for things they have no business having, or asking things they should already know. I'm reminded of what may be the most socially oblivious intern I've ever come across. For context, I work for a large nationwide company, and my role is a Tier 2/3 IT support. I also take on a bit of security work, and a bit of networking. Kind of a jack of all trades. I'm also the only person in my position in my region of the country. Once a quarter everyone on my team gives updates, at an all-hands meeting, discussing the common issues that have been appearing in our regions, and other metrics, and things. These are big important meetings, that are attended by every level of IT management, up to, and including the CIO. The CIO for our company is a very stoic kind of guy. He rarely cracks a joke, never uses anything other than very professional language. A skill picked up over a 45-year career. This will be important in a bit. This particular year I had 21 interns, starting in my immediate area of the country, so they were onboarding at my location. I don't really have a role in onboarding. Users are sent their equipment ahead of time, and they bring it on their first day in case there's any issues that arose during imaging. 20 of these were for one program in particular, so they were off in their own space, getting spun up and prepped for the project they'd be working on. There were a few issues with the interns' laptops that required my attention, so I was busy addressing them for most of the morning, while I should have been prepping for the quarterly meeting. Enter Kevin. Kevin needed all kinds of hand-holding that he really should have called the help desk for, but they were swamped with other interns calling. I gave him the best support I could, but he kept trying to divert the conversation to literally anything other than the issues at hand. Now, I give a lot of grace to interns. They don't know anything, and they're here to learn. I get that, and I respect that. What I don't respect is when they don't seem like they care. The internship they got is highly competitive, so if they don't want to be there, it's a real bummer because someone else absolutely would have. So, Kevin starts talking about a book he wants to write. I'm trying to redirect him back to his computer at every turn, but he just doesn't get the hint, so it takes significantly longer than it should. At this point, I tell him, I need to go present to this all-hands meeting, and I'll help him out when my part is done. I usually go early on and get it over with. I head back to my office, and close the door. Because I have an office with a door, I'll usually close the door, and have meetings on speaker. I get settled in and wait for my turn. Roughly 20 minutes later, I get to speak. I'm in the middle of answering a question from the CIO, when Kevin barges into my office without knocking, and loudly asks me if I want to hear about the ideas he has for characters in the book he wants to write. There's a long period of silence, literally 7 or 8 seconds of me staring at this moron, not knowing how to react to what just happened, and through the speaker comes the inquisitive voice of our CIO. I'm sorry, what the fuck did he just ask? Friends, every single person on that call was laughing. I was too. I couldn't help it, even Kevin was laughing, though let's be real, he was probably laughing for a different reason. I told him I was in the middle of the meeting, and sent him back to his desk. Miraculously, he wasn't fired for that, though I did notice he wasn't on the roster of interns for the next year. I hope you enjoyed my tale of Kevin and his first day of his internship. That's the end of our second story. Now on to the third. My neighbor Kevin. Kevin was my neighbor, and he always talked about how he knew everything there was to know about agriculture. He would spout off all sorts of made-up facts about crop rotation, soil pH, and the like, using all sorts of jargon and technical terms to make himself sound smart. Here are just a few of the facts Kevin would share with me. Did you know that if you plant turnips upside down, they'll grow twice as big? The key to good soil health is to add a few drops of ketchup to it every month. If you water your crops with coffee instead of regular water, they'll be much more caffeinated. To prevent weeds from growing in your garden, you should sprinkle it with fairy dust on the night of a full moon. The secret to growing healthy corn is to play classical music for it every day. It helps the stalks grow straighter. As if that wasn't bad enough, Kevin also had a habit of pooping all over my front lawn. I'm not sure why he did it, but it was a disgusting and infuriating habit that made me dread going outside. I tried talking to him about it, but he just laughed and said something about how manure is good for the soil. Eventually, I had enough of Kevin's made-up agricultural facts and his disgusting behavior. I reported him to the authorities, and he was forced to clean up his act and his poop. As far as I know, he's still out there somewhere, spouting off his ridiculous nonsense, and leaving his mark on the world in more ways than one. That's the end of our third story. Now on to the fourth, and last for today. Kevin stole my homework. This happened while I was studying as a foreign exchange student in the U.S. I am from South America, and as a teen I finished my studies in the U.S. Here in my country, we are tough to write in cursive, and I was surprised to learn that most people only wrote non-cursive. I talked to my teachers and most of them could understand my fine calligraphy. I was in my creative writing class, and we had to use some old notebooks to make some collages, and complete with a tiny story of our own. I had trouble finishing the class's activities during class time, and asked to do it at home, so the teacher lent me some of the notebooks. I spent some time doing the work, and at the end, decided to make a cover for my work with a funny Garfield strip that I found. I added my name in the cover, and in the next day I added my work to the pile with the other works. Later in the week the teacher asked to speak with me in private, and told that a college of mine, that hadn't done his work, stole my work, ripped the cover off and wrote his name. And she quickly released that he could not have done it, since I was their only student that wrote in cursive LOL. The end. That's all we have today. If you have enjoyed, please consider subscribing, and if you want more stories about Kevin, let me know in the comments. Have a great day.